Hey,
Hello?
we got a phone call. Hi, is this Isaac?
Yeah, how's it going?
Hello, Isaac. What would you like to? Is there something you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the one that says trans women are women and trans men are men.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, would you support trans women being placed in women's prisons upon incarceration of a crime?
I am a least harm possible situation where I feel that if you say, for example, I have a trans woman that is a sex offender towards women, that they should not go to the women's prison; they should go to the men's prison.
Why?
But other than that,
Why?
because it would cause least harm for them
But
to go
women
to
should
the
be in
proper
women's
prison.
prisons, right?
That's correct.
And trans women are women, right?
Yes,
So in your view,
by
trans women
gender.
should be in women's prisons?
So, the only caveat being is if they have literally harmed women.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with anything? Because some cis women have harmed women as well.
It's a pragmatic choice.
Yeah, but why is that relevant?
Pragmatism.
No, I'm saying like
Why is pragmatism
why is it
relevant?
relevant that they might have caused harm to other women? Because some cis women have also caused harm to other women.
It's a good point.
So in your view, like all trans women should be in women's prisons because that would be consistent.
No, I'm
Uh,
okay with the idea of the least harm possible. For example, if a trans woman is going to a men's prison, they're constantly being sexually assaulted, and they're not sexually assaulting other women, then they probably ought to be in the women's prison.
but what if they've been convicted of sexual assault?
Yeah, if they have been convicted of that, then I would say that they need to go to the men's prison.
And what if they're being
Seems
sexually
pretty
assaulted in the
logical.
men's prison?
Well, I mean, I would go for least harm possible is my move.
And why should we reduce harm?
Why, like, as a society, should we reduce harm?
No, why should we reduce harm?
I would say like having needless suffering in society is worse than having needless suffering in society.
Okay, perfect. So given that condition, I have the perfect solution for you, which is that we remove transgenderism from society altogether because it would solve this problem.
So, do you believe that transgenderism is that a like? Do you think that that's an ideology?
Yeah, it's an ideology.
Okay, that is incorrect. Transgenderism is not an ideology; it is a discovery. It's like when you say we need to remove transgenderism. What I hear is effectively like we need to remove gravity because I want to be able to fly. The reality is that whether or not that you're willing to acknowledge the existence of transgender individuals, we have exhibited instances of transgenderism existing in the past. I believe the Nazis burned the books regarding trans individuals, and there also exhibit much older cultures such as Hydras that acknowledge a third gender. The problem is that the hormones don't always perfectly align with people that are cisgender typical or sex typical, and the question is whether or not that you're willing to acknowledge that fact. So
Right.
it's not you can't rid yourself of gravity just as you can't rid yourself of transgenderism. It's not possible.
So when I'm saying we should remove transgenderism from society, I'm not saying we should remove the condition of gender dysphoria from society. I'm saying we should stop telling boys that they're girls and stop telling men that they're women, because that would solve the problem of the prison issue that I brought up.
Well, the benefit is that we're not doing that. It's people themselves going on a journey where they realize that their sex doesn't match their gender.
So what if they go on a journey and they realize that their smex doesn't match their gender, and then they decide to commit a sexual assault crime? Should they be placed in a women's prison?
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with using the practicality example here. I've already addressed this.
But this is just inconsistent, because if only women are supposed to be
No, it
in
doesn't. It
women's
doesn't have to
prisons.
be. It doesn't have to be inconsistent. It's just using a mark of practicality here, and I think it's logical to make that presumption. We do lots of things in prisons that are practical. For example, if somebody is harming a lot of people, we separate them from other people because they keep harming inmates or guards. Now, it's inconsistent in the sense that the rules are different per inmate. However, it is practical to separate somebody that is harming everybody in the prison.
Okay, so if a cis woman committed sexual assault, would you send her to a man's prison?
I'm not sure about that. That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean that
I would have to look at some criminology reports to see whether or not that would even be viable.
well, I mean
But
that would be
an
the
argument
logical
could probably
conclusion.
be made if there was say like a lesbian that said if there was a lesbian that is sexually assaulting women, that they probably ought be in the men's prison. But I don't know. The question is like, what would happen to them in the men's prison?
Yeah,
It would probably
that's
cause
ridiculous.
more harm. Okay, yeah. So then they would stay in the women's prison, but then they would be separated.
Yeah, but the trans woman would also experience harm in the men's prison, so they would have to be placed in the women's prison. In your view,
Yeah, yeah. Basically, yeah.
yeah, even if they were even if they were convicted of sexual assault.
I've already addressed this.
Well, yeah, but you told me that trans women who are convicted of sexual assault should be placed
Yeah,
in men's
it's
prisons.
using an air of It's using an air of practicality, right?
Okay, then you'd have to hold the same
I've already
standard for
said
cis
this.
women.
No, not necessarily. I'm even
Okay, well
willing
then
to
trans women aren't
acknowledge that
women
maybe
because
it's
you're not
possible.
holding the same standard that you would for actual women.
So trans women are women by gender.
But okay, so if trans women are women, then they should be in women's prisons.
Sure, yeah, I agree.
So then that contradicts what you told me earlier because if they're
The
convicted,
only thing that I would acknowledge is the exception of the norm.
but you wouldn't hold the same standard for cis women. So if a cis woman is convicted of sexual assault, then you wouldn't place her in a men's prison.
I think I've already addressed this. You're just kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah,
I don't
because
know what else to tell
there,
you.
there's a direct contradiction here.
It's not a contradiction. It's acknowledging practicality.
Yeah, but you if you're going to make it practical
Is it a
in the sense,
contradiction to treat prisoners differently based on their behavior?
no, it's a contradiction to put biological
But how
males
is
in
it a
women's
contradiction?
prisons.
But hold on. You're not treating them the same though.
Yeah, I don't think you should treat trans women the same way you treat a woman. That's not reality.
All right. Well, I mean, just FYI, right? Endocrinologically speaking, there's a lot of differences that result in someone's brain being outside of what their external genitalia show. It's the question is whether or not you're even willing to acknowledge it. This is where it gets into the quote unquote trans ideology, which it is not an ideology; it is a discovery.
The ideology aspect
Let
of
me
it
ask
is
you
that
this: have you read any books on gender?
have I read any books on gender? No.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think it might be appropriate to read some books on gender?
No, I don't think I really
so that
need
you
to.
understand why.
Yeah, because
Why would you not
I know
wanna
what a
read
penis
what
is and I
your
know what a vagina
is?
is, so I don't think it's really necessary that I read a book
Okay,
to
but
tell me
what
what those
about
parts are.
endocrinological conditions that result in separations of external gonads to your internal brain chemistry?
Right. So if your
What about
internal
that?
brain chemistry tells you that you're actually a girl and you commit sexual assault, you should still be placed in a women's prison in your view.
All right. Well, just so you're aware, right? Trans women, they commit way less sexual assault than cisgendered people.
No,
So
that's actually not true. The largest study on
that's
this ever
100% true.
the largest study on this ever done was in the UK in
this is-
2024.
this
Yes,
is-
it was.
this
And they
is incorrect.
they concluded that transgender inmates were more likely to
This
commit
is incorrect.
sexual
I
assault.
literally know exactly what study you're talking about. It does not imply that.
It very much does. It was a margin of like
I know
3%.
exactly what study you're talking about. That is not what the study implies.
That is what the study implies. Yes.
Nope, it is
They
not
were
what the
they were
study
more likely to
implies
be
at all.
violent towards other inmates, especially in a sexual sense.
Isaac, do you have anything else for me? Because
Yeah, I'll ask-
This is
I'll-
very boring.
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask you to here. I'll ask you another question. So if a trans man is convicted of
What do
sexual
you think
assault,
a trans man is? What is a trans man?
a trans man is a female that thinks she's a boy.
Okay, good. All right, good. You at least have the terminology down. By the way, I really highly recommend that you spend the time to read a book on gender because I think you'll realize that it's a lot more empirical than you would initially assume.
I don't need to read a
and what I
book
find
to tell
really,
me that
really
your view is
common-
contradictory.
What I find really, really common among people that are anti-trans is that they actively avoid reading books on gender because they think that it will poison their brain. But the reality is, it is actually the anti-trans movement that is actively trying to poison your brain. In fact, if it requires you, in order for your brain to remain pure, to not read a book, then you're in the ideology. I mean, I gotta let you know, I've read the Bible. That didn't make me a Christian. I've read the Mein Kampf that did not make me an ethno-nationalist.
Yeah,
You can read. I've read what was it, Marx's theory.
I've
That
smelled
didn't make
scented
me a
candles. That doesn't
Marxist.
make me a woman.
So again, like I once again would request that you take the time to maybe read on some of the topics before you go on criticizing transgenderism.
So,
Okay?
so quick question. I guess if you want to let me down after that, that's fine. Would you put a trans man into a men's prison if that person
Yes.
was incarcerated? You would put a trans man in a men's prison.
Yeah. So like all
Even
else
if they had a
equal, I
vagina?
would put a trans man in a men's prison. I would put trans women in a women's prison. The only exception would be in instances of a harm reduction where they would actually result in less harm if they went to the opposite prison.
That would be a huge harm reduction to put them in women's prisons.
Maybe.
Do you
Again,
not
it
realize
would
what
be a
happens to
case-by-case
biological
basis.
females
I would
in
analyze-
men's prisons?
I would analyze what the harm reduction would be. That's where I'm at with it. Okay.
Oh,
I
okay.
appreciate you calling. Okay,
Yeah,
Isaac?
you have too many contradictions, man. Maybe something to look into.
No, it's just operating on an air of practicality.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It's fine
keep
if
telling
you call
yourself
that a
that.
Contradiction.
Sure.
Bye bye.
See ya.
If you
Yeah,
call that
keep
a
telling yourself that.
contradiction. Bye bye.
Sure.